Good afternoon, everybody. Running a little late on my daily devotion for you. But to be honest, I was recording them ahead of time, day ahead, and I'm having enough trouble telling what day it is to begin with without trying to record and keep my days straight. So that's part of the reason I didn't record one. Just sitting here, had to come outside for a minute. I was sitting here in the garage just looking up the street and looking at everything blooming. And I just want to share a thought with you. Still from the Easter story. In Luke 24, the Bible records for us the story of Jesus walking, or two men walking on the way on what we call the Emmaus Road. And Jesus comes along and starts talking with them. And one of the things that, and most of you know the story, and I'm not going to be breaking any new theology to you today, but just a kind of hopefully a good reminder that as the men were walking along, it said they were discussing the events, and I'm paraphrasing here. I believe verse 11 says they were discussing the events of the current day. And Jesus comes along and starts walking with them, and they don't recognize him for a good way on the trip. And I thought about that, and I think maybe really particularly right now, it's always, I guess, easy to get so distracted and caught up in current events and things going on around us that we just sometimes we overlook seeing Jesus. But I think especially we need to be reminded of that now, that if we're not careful, if we're not cautious with all the events going on between Corona and all the, I guess you'd call trickle-down effects from that, from meat plants closing and groceries hard to find, different things like that. And if we're not careful, we can go along and not see and miss Christ at work in our life. And what's really cool is if you keep reading that story, if you keep reading in Luke, it says that eventually when Jesus spoke to them, they did realize it. And they make a statement that they say, didn't our hearts burn within us? We knew there was something special about him. And I think probably most everybody that tags along and watches this video, we know the difference. We know the joy, the peace that comes from seeing and sensing the presence of Christ in our life, just looking around and seeing him at work. I'm sitting here looking out across the yard, and there's one big round green tree. I mean, there's a lot of green trees, but there's one in particular that I've just been looking at for a while, and just kind of taking in the shape of it, the color of it, and just thinking about God's handiwork. And so as we continue in this stay-at-home order, remind you, just like these men on the road to Emmaus, it's real easy for us, if we're not careful, to not even realize that Jesus is walking with us. The flip side of that is sometimes, like these parents in the book of John, they thought Jesus was with them after they'd been to the temple, and they looked around and he wasn't there. Hopefully we'll learn, maybe that'll be one of the good things, I think, that comes out of this virus and out of being shut in, is that we will maybe we'll learn to pay more attention to when Jesus is working. Hey Donald, hey Diane, hey Caleb, I see all y'all. Hey Angel, and maybe we'll learn to pay more attention. These men, they weren't doing anything bad if you're thinking about it. These men, as they were walking down the road to Emmaus, they were walking along. They weren't committing a crime. They wasn't hurting anything, but they just didn't recognize Jesus. And I'm afraid sometimes that's what happens to us in our life, is as we go along, we just don't really pay attention to the things that God is doing around us, the work that He's doing. Again, this time of year, it's so easy to look out and see the beauty around us, and all that God's doing, the trees blooming. You look at a little child, and they start, you see that child laugh, or all those things. And so I encourage you, go back and look at Luke chapter 24 and read that story again, and see those men as they were walking along and didn't even see Jesus. I hope you'll see Jesus today. Again, I know it'd be easy sometimes to miss. It's easy to get down and out and discouraged. But hopefully today you'll look around, look out the window and see the beauty. Look at your family. Look at all the things. We just celebrated Easter, the resurrection of our Savior, and realize that even in the bad times, we can still enjoy our walk with Christ. Hope you have a good day. I know, Diane, you don't like the beard, but I don't shave on vacation or when it snows or any oddball circumstance. I don't shave. But I don't know if I like doing live video where y'all can talk back to me. But I do hope that we'll pay attention and see Jesus even in the dark days when we're walking along. Have a good day. We'll see you.